And we're off. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live webinar by Journey. Today, we're going to be looking at tips, tools, and tricks for solo practitioners in the immigration field. We have a very special guest who's going to be helping us out with some of these ideas and some of these tips. And we're ready to go. Well, first of all, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Marcos Bravo. I am one of Journey's brand ambassadors. I've been doing marketing and sales for about 20 years. And it's a total honor and a privilege to be hosting this webinar for you, our immigration partners. And first, I just want to make sure that whoever is here knows what Journey is. If this is your first time joining one of our webinars, Journey is the leading provider. And actually, wait, because I want to read it to you because they wrote an amazing way to describe it. We're a leading provider of immigration support documentation, including business plans and other materials tailored to meet the requirement of a range of immigration programs, both in the United States and Canada. So that probably gives you an idea of why we're doing this and why is it important for us to do it for you. Now, this is a different series. We're starting a different series. Usually we talk about immigration details and how to do the right applications and stuff like that. But because this is aimed for solo practitioners, small agencies, or just you who are trying to find a way to stand out from the crowd, this is a little bit of a initiation into digital marketing and how to take advantage of all the tools that are available to make you stand out from the crowd. To start with this, I have a special guest. He's not only an amazing marketing professional, but he's also the head of Journey's digital division, Mr. Dmitriy Smirnov.
Hello.
How are you doing? Now,
Great.
I'm going to bring you there. There we go.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Marcos, for having me. Appreciate you.
The pleasure is all mine. And before we start, Dmitry, I need to mention two things. First, because this webinar is related to your field, we're giving one CLE credit approved by the Florida Bar Association. So make sure you stay till the end so we can share the code and you can claim that credit. Also, don't forget that throughout the webinar, you will have questions. And any of those questions that they come up, please write them down and wait for our Q&A section towards the end. And actually, one more thing, because we want to make sure that we're delivering the right stuff and relevant stuff for you, make sure you fill out the poll towards the end as well. Let us know what you like, what you didn't like, what direction you want us to take. And with all that being said, please let us know also where you're coming from. Where are you joining us from so we can give you a little shout out. And Dmitry, let's take it away.
All right.
Cool. So let me start with one question because I need to clear this out from I want you to tell us a little bit about your journey in marketing for immigration professionals, because it's not something that is very common. You always think of products, brands, websites, but immigration professionals are sort of a very niche, and you have the experience. So tell us about your journey.
All right. Well, I mean, from the get-go, I wanted to be an attorney when I was going into college and everything else. I'm sure everybody here would probably urge me not to ever have done that. But at the end of the day, I ended up sticking into marketing. But I thought it was going to be smart and try to stand out from the crowd for when I went to law school. Decided to get a degree in marketing. And, the rest is history. I ended up staying in marketing and continuing on. I have a big background in real estate marketing, and then before that, that was prior to getting picked up by Journey. And then, of course, I had my own marketing firm, got picked up by Journey. I was marketing director for a couple of years here, and then stepped down to run the digital department so I can continue doing marketing with clients. So, but, my background really in immigration started with Journey and then working with various immigration attorneys and other clients as well in the immigration space.
So you're also an entrepreneur in a way, right?
Yeah. So
let's start from the beginning. When someone starts their business as a practitioner for immigration, they have to sort of click certain boxes and to say, okay, well, I need to promote myself, right? There's certain things that we all do. They're like websites and this and this and that. But what are the first things that we do wrong? What are the common mistakes that people do thinking that this is the right way to do it?
That's a good question. I mean, as it pertains to marketing, I'll kind of do it both on marketing and the business side, because I would say, and this is from experience because I've talked to a lot of immigration attorneys. When you're talking about your firm, you think of yourself not as like a sales team or a salesperson, right? You look at yourself only as an attorney. One of the biggest mistakes that you make is, as the owner or sole practitioner, you are a salesperson still. You are an attorney, but you're also a salesperson. So if you don't treat your business as a business, right, and everything else that goes with it, sales process, procedures, everything else, marketing, these are all important things to have in order to actually scale and grow your business, right? But what I've seen is a lot of attorneys don't think about things like CRM. They don't think about things like delegation for their marketing or for sales, things like that, or creating the right procedures there. And that's where it kind of stunts people's growth. They're not able to keep expanding. The only thing that they can do is just they'll be stifled by the growth or the work that they can do themselves, right? And then what will end up happening in most cases is a lot of companies, even attorneys, almost every industry has this. I like to call it the sales roller coaster. And the sales roller coaster is one of the things that you want to avoid at all costs, which is basically this. When you're a sole practitioner, you start off, what are you going to be doing? Trying to get out, network, trying to get some business. You drum up a little bit of business, you get busy. What happens now? Your pipeline dries out, and now you're busy. That money dries out, and then you're back to square one again, and you have to go back to networking and getting more business, right? So those are some of the early things that I would say to avoid and to make sure that you invest in CRM, marketing, make sure that you delegate work, right? Figure out a process, then delegate it, and start with that.
Now, when people kick off this, right? Let's say we'll hopefully you avoid some of these big mistakes, and you're starting. Okay, well, you're ready to. I have my strategy. Mm-hmm. The first thing it comes to people's mind when you're going for digital marketing is I need a website, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So how do you think it makes sense for solo practitioners to have a website, or shall we turn that into a brand? What's the best approach in your opinion?
Okay. Well, number one, just like any other business, people are going to research you, right? It's not like the old days where, they didn't have online, though they would just see an ad in the newspaper and then they would just call for references or things like that. It's not like that at all anymore. Like you have the entire internet at your fingertips. So one of the first things that I know almost every buyer does in the beginning of their journey is they do research, even if they're, given to you as a referral. They're going to research your firm. They're going to look you up online. They're going to either type your name or your firm's name. They're going to try to see what pops up, right? And if you are not cautious and you don't invest into digital marketing or into your presence, by doing things like building a website, climbing all of your social media profiles, things like that, right? You are going to have a hard time, landing clients because they're not going to see the social proof and they're not going to see the things that are important to really, validate you online. Right? They're not going to see Google reviews or anything else. So, yes, I would say yes, Marcus. You got to have a website. If you don't have one, get one right away. At least very basic. Make sure people can know who you are, what you do, what services you offer, and then try to have some level of social proofing, which would be things like reviews or testimonials, things like that.
It reminds me that I was working with a company called Now This, and their website, it said, website, even the word sounds old. That was the whole website. However, it worked for them, right? But the first thing I do with anything that I hear is like, right, they better have a .com or any sort of website, like you said, for social proof. I need to make sure that they know what they're doing and they have a presence online. But a lot of people think, and actually it is true, having a good website is not something that is cheap, right? Do you recommend also go for the free web editor that you can just create your own website, or maybe invest a little bit in something that it makes you stand out?
Okay, so that's a good question, and it's very subjective based on where you are in your business, to be honest with you. And I would never be the guy that says, go out and spend tens of thousands of dollars on a website, because I personally don't think it's 100% necessary to do it that way either, unless your business is driven online and you really need to invest into that presence, right? Now, let's say if you're using it as more of a digital business card for that reference, for that social proof when someone looks you up, I would tell you, you don't have to overinvest, but definitely don't underinvest, because when it comes to website development, you get what you pay for. And that's very true almost in any industry, but very specifically in web. Because, a good website is not always simple to build. And, on your own, let's say if you're using Wix or Squarespace, those are perfectly viable to use if you have, number one, the ability to put in the sweat equity. You have the ability to actually think through, plan the website, and understand what principles need to be included, right? And we can go over some of these today. So even for somebody that, wants to start building their own site, they're on a budget, That's perfectly fine. We can tell you what you should have in your site, right? But at the end of the day, what's going to happen, and this is what happens with most people that use, those drag and drop editor style website builders, they're going to start and they never finish. You get busy or you get frustrated and flustered and you quit. And eventually you'll end up coming back to a guy like me to build your website. Okay. But
I've been there.
at the end of the day, it's everything in marketing and in sales, it's about either delegation or sweat equity. And that's where you can decide, is your money, not spending money in your budget, more important than your time, right? And that's one of the things that I really want to urge everybody to understand. Delegation is key, especially if you want to scale your law firm. So, make sure that you're okay spending a little bit of money, letting go of the reins, because sure, maybe you can do things a lot better than someone else, but at the end of the day, just like with employees, you never know, you're never going to be able to scale unless you can delegate that. So
exactly, good point, man. Going down, there's a concept in marketing that is very common, which is the concept of a funnel, right? Funnel means that you have the attraction and you call people in, and then you start bringing it down until you get the right person for your offer.
Yep.
Going back into the details that you want to talk about the website, how will you add these elements into the website to create an idea of a funnel? So how people will understand your services, introduce yourself, or call to action straight away? How do you think this website should be a bit of a structure?
So when we're talking about a website versus a funnel, those are two different things. Okay. Most websites are not built in the format of a funnel, and most funnels are not your main website usually. Okay, so that's one of the first things I want to get clear when it comes to like marketing and advertising. So you'll typically have your regular website, but typically when you're doing advertising, let's say you're doing SEO, not SEO, PPC, Facebook ads, anything where you're driving traffic direct by paid advertising, typically you're going to be using a dedicated landing page or a funnel, right? That's a little bit different. That's a little bit more advanced when it comes to the marketing side of things. But the funnel always comes down to knowing, what I like to go always back to, which is the basic principles of marketing, which is who, what, where, when, why, and how, right? If you can answer those questions with your marketing collateral, you'll have better chances of success than if you're, just winging it or just throwing in whatever you think is appropriate, right? Everything has to be tailored to who are you talking to? That's why in a funnel, it's very targeted, right? So that's why I say it's a little bit more advanced than the traditional building of a website. And I think that's a great topic to get into. I think funnel building in a future webinar. But today, let's stick with websites because that's the simplest part, and that's what we want to start with for solo practitioners. Most solo practitioners aren't building funnels at the beginning, right? So, and that's more into lead generation, but that's going to always come with a little bit of a marketing budget and things like that. So. But as far as the website itself, answer the who, what, where, when, why. Those are the core things that you always want to do. Always want to have social proof on your website. That is very key because you want to make sure everything's clear. I can tell you, let's say, some tips for your website. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. Number one, always have clear call to actions. You want to have a clear way for someone to engage with you, because if they don't know how you want them to communicate with you, reach out to you, it's confusing to the client. Number two, you want to make sure that you're effectively communicating your core values, right? Or your core value proposition. So meaning what makes you different from other attorneys, right? Because, there's a lot of attorneys out there, right? And you have to individualize yourself. You want to stand out. And I'll tell you this from personal experience, your face and your vision and your view, your profile is not what's going to differentiate you from another attorney. So one of the biggest things that I always see is like a don't, let's say, when it comes to a website is for an attorney is just putting only your face as like the thing that differentiates you. And I see this all the time. Everybody always has this shot.
I was going to say that.
Of the website, and listen, you may have a beautiful face, but there's plenty of other attorneys just as beautiful as you are or good looking as you are, and that's not going to differentiate you or make you stand out. Now, what you could communicate and what you should communicate is the problems that you solve, right? Because when people come to your website, they're typically looking to you for services to solve some sort of issue for them, right? And if you can communicate to them that issue that they're trying to solve and that you are an expert on it, that you can fix it for them, that is something that's a great start for actually communicating your value, right? Now, obviously, there's a lot more things that can differentiate you. You know, you can have, let's say, money back guarantees and this and that. There's all kinds of things that people use as marketing tactics when it comes into, you know, effectively making that value proposition. But at the end of the day, you know, it comes down to just problem solving, being able to communicate that you can solve those problems. Another thing I would definitely tell you on your website, use layman terms, please, 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 please. You have no idea how many clients I've worked with in the past that they want to use a lot of legal jargon just because they think it makes sense for everyone to know it or hear it. But at the end of the day, the people that they're hiring you, they're not attorneys. So if you just want kudos from your peers, that's one thing. But if you're actually trying to use your website to effectively attract business from people that don't know what they don't know what you know, right? Then at the end of the day, you know, use layman terms. Explain things in a way that's easy to understand and in proper mannerisms, things like that, that would effectively communicate with your client. Besides that, you know, make sure you're providing value, right? Your website should provide some sort of value. It could be education. It could be resources. There's all kinds of things you can do with your website. That's another great thing. Social proofing, we've already mentioned this a little bit, but it's probably one of the most key things, especially if you're not doing advertising a lot and you're really banking on those referrals, right? And you want somebody to be able to really trust you well. Make sure you have that social proofing elements in there. So make sure you have testimonials, case studies, reviews, anything that's going to allow people to see what the others' experiences are with you. Then that would give you more credibility. And then the last thing that you would want to try to do with your website, and this is more towards once you start doing lead generation, use your website to be able to pre-qualify and start gathering data on your clients, right? So these are the things that most websites that are really effective are doing, right? They're clear CTAs, showcasing their core value proposition, communicating what they offer, right? Providing some sort of value, social proof, and then of course they're using it to, you know, generate leads and qualify their leads as well for them. Okay.
Obviously, and I want to stay in that subject, because when you're talking about like trying to relate with the people, with their problems, use terms as they can understand. That's when you have this idea of like you're talking to a human being, a customer,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Does it change too much when you have an approach more B2B, which is like business to business, right? When you don't aim to the particular person, but more of a company that's doing immigration or an organization that is dealing with immigration, and you can provide some services. Does the language or the approach change too much between B2C and B2B?
So once you get into the marketing side and even on your website, 100%. Now, perfect example, you know, I love using like real examples here. Everybody that's here in this webinar, right? You guys have been specifically targeted by Joorney and our marketing to become partners, right? To be able to form these relationships. Okay, so that means if you really look at what's on our website, for the Joorney website, everything is geared around building these partnerships, right? And that's why, you know, the sales approach, everything is geared around that. And so once you understand who you're really trying to target, it's important to then update your messaging towards that specific segment, right? Now, if you were just doing, this is where I like to go back. Let me take a step back. B2B versus B2C. So in my definition is a little bit different of B2B versus B2C. Okay. The most common B2B versus B2C definition is, am I working with another company or am I working with an individual or consumer? Right. That's the most, typical translation, or I guess definition of what B2B versus B2C is. But in my marketing world, it's a little bit different. I don't look at it as like, doing business with another company, because, for example, let's say I have a marketing firm and I'm building a website for another company. Is that now B2B marketing? No, it's still B2C, because the person that's receiving that service is the end consumer, right? So whether that's a business or a person, it shouldn't matter. Now, this is where in B2B marketing versus B2C marketing is a little bit different. B2C marketing is going to be targeting that consumer, the end user of your service or product, right? And B2B is going to be strategic relationships that will lead you to working with more of the consumers that you want to work with. So perfect example in Joorney's case, Journey likes to work with immigrants coming over on, let's say, E2s, EB2 NIWs, L1s, EB5s, right? So who naturally talks to these types of clients? Immigration attorneys and professionals. So it makes perfect sense for Journey to build strategic relationships with attorneys and immigration professionals, right? Because they're going to be getting referrals from them. Now, perfect example in marketing. So there's a thing called white label, right? And that's something I've done in the past, where you could do work on behalf of another agency, right? So basically, in my world, another agency would sell a website, and then I would do the work, and I would pretend that I was that company, right? So that's a B2B relationship. I target other agencies that are maybe smaller than myself. They don't have the resources, and then they're bringing me the consumers, right? So versus me going out directly and advertising, trying to sell a website on Facebook or on LinkedIn, right, to the end consumer, right? So at the end of the day, it's like choosing what makes sense for you in your approach really makes a difference in your marketing budget, your approach, and everything else as well. So, perfect example now for immigration attorneys, right? Okay, let's say you can do Facebook ads, you can do Google, PPC, SEO, whatever. Those are always going to be targeting typically the end consumer. So that'd be your B2C, okay? Business to consumer. And that would be trying to get the direct lead, the person that's going to be your client. Now, if you take a B2B approach, that could look a little bit different. Let's say you're specifically targeting, let's say, business immigrants, right? Somebody that wants to do an E2 or an EB5 that's got some money. Well, who's going to naturally know those people? Maybe foreign accountants, foreign bankers, other attorneys in different countries, right? So maybe your approach could be to travel to those countries, build relationships, create webinars and shared events with these other professionals, right? To show yourself, to be seen by their clients, right? Or to get the referrals from them. And now you're bringing leads over from a business partnership of some sort, not a traditional partnership, but like a referral partnership, let's say. And now you're getting a lead source by doing that. So, that's one great example of B2B versus B2C, especially in immigration.
Now, and regardless of what business you're doing, right? B2B,
Yeah.
B2C, whatever, one of the most powerful things out there is word of mouth, referrals, is people talking about your work. How do you think is the best way for solo practitioners to create a referral network, something that they can either promote each other, help each other, or expand your own business? Do you have any examples or any best practices for it?
Yeah. So when it comes to networking, it's usually going to be your first thing that you do in marketing. Okay. Now, a lot of people don't always consider networking a marketing tactic, but it is. Referral marketing is marketing still, right? Now, there's different ways of doing it. You can go to local chamber events. You can go to, let's say, legal associations or bar associations, all kinds of different things that you can do on that side. Or you can join other types of organizations such as BNI. So perfect example, especially here in South Florida, where I am, is very, very common for attorneys to join a BNI group, which is Business Networking International. And it's all over the world. It's in the US, Canada, Europe, Asia, everywhere. And the premise of that is to join a group where you have what's called category exclusivity. So you can only have one immigration attorney, one tax attorney, one personal injury attorney, one marketing person, one real estate agent, etc. Right? And in your chapter, you have that exclusivity, so no one else can join once you're a member. Now, what's great about those types of organizations is the return on them could be tenfold. And especially in the legal world, where most attorneys like to specialize into one area of practice, usually anyways. And it's pretty common for them to trade referrals. So this allows you to start building that network of other attorneys that can rely on you, and you can rely on them for your referrals out, right, as a solo practitioner, right? And then as you start building up, obviously, you'll expand and expand. But at the beginning, that relationship, something like a BNI, I think I was doing the math. It was somewhere, if you're going in person to a BNI group, it's like $2,000 a year. But, think about it. That's just going to give you a couple things. One, you have to invest that $2,000. And then the only other thing you invest is sweat equity just to go to these meetings and to form relationships. How is that not how is that not like common sense that you should do this now, right? The ROI on that could be significant. You get one deal from one referral that pays for your entire year. right? And that's one of the first things as a marketing consultant I'll always tell any of my clients, whether it's an attorney or any other type of small business, as long as it's like a localized business, go to a BNI. It's a great starting point, especially if you're on a budget. And then from there, start expanding, get your network set up, right? Make sure you have that website, things like that. But other than that, like BNI would be your first marketing tool, right? But
Help me to help you.
right. And one of the fun parts about BNI, and this is not an advertisement for them, by the way. This is just something I go to BNI. I've been in BNI for 7+ years now. But their mentality is give me, right? And everything in business is about relationships. So, and if you approach your relationships in business, especially on the B2B side, right? And that's what BNI helps you do. BNI helps you get those B2B relationships, right? For referrals and things like that. But everything in business is about relationships, informing them and keeping them. And BNI is a great starting point for that, because that will put you in a mindset where you're having to do that consistently. And then one of their philosophies is givers gain, right? The more you give, the more you're going to get back. It's kind of like a karma, exactly. Now, at the end of the day, having this system is really effective, because even with your clients, if you think about it, if you give them, your clients, more value than you gain from them, they're always going to come back. They're going to trust you. They're going to want to refer you, right? So everything that you do should be coming from these types of principles.
So we're talking about like creating a website, creating a message, creating things that your customers can relate to. But there's certain technicalities. There's certain things that you still need to do on your marketing strategy, because after all, it is a marketing strategy, regarding if you're a solo practitioner. So I wanted to touch a little bit of, because I know it's a lot more technical, but about search engine marketing. Like everybody still Google stuff. I Google everything, or YouTube, whatever I need. What will be the best approach to start thinking, at least, on how to start with search engine marketing? Like, how do you do an SEO approach to your messaging? Things like that.
Okay, so SEO is a combination of technical elements and content. That's it. Okay, the technical side is pretty straightforward, and most of the time it's not necessarily only one time, but it's as simple as just making sure that you have a website that is properly structured and on the correct platform to be able to accommodate effective SEO. Now, the more common things that you really have to have, and this is a little bit more technical than I'm sure anybody cares to get, but you just need title tags, descriptions, and general metadata, right? If you can make sure that all your pages have that, that's the starting point of SEO. Now, the secondary side is content, right? And nowadays, it's really evolved compared to say 5-10 years ago, where it used to be about keyword stuffing. Now it's about having valuable original content and making sure that you're consistently creating new updates and adding new content to your website. So that's why what you'll notice is anytime you talk to a marketing agency or anybody else that's going to try to sell you SEO, most common elements that are in your SEO packages are always going to be blog articles, link building, right? Maybe some social bookmarking and social signals, things like that. But that's the most of what's going to be in your packages, because everything's about that content. Everything's about those relationships, right? The link side, is being placed in directories, getting, mentioned on other people's websites. And it comes down to that referral side again, right? Right. The more people referring to you, the more credible you are. It's the same thing with SEO. Now,
and they always go hand by hand with creating some sort of content, or not necessarily?
Yeah, content. Yeah, usually it's with content. So perfect example of ways of getting on, getting what's called backlinks, right? Would be a guest blog. So write an article and send it off to someone else to feature on their website. So that way you can have some thought leadership and link it back to your website. Or alternative things is, having your website on a directory, right? Because there's a lot of directories out there where people might be searching for attorneys or this or that, right? And making sure that you have a profile with a link back to your company's website as well there, right? That's another type of backlink. Those are not as effective or as good as the, having other websites linking back to you, right? Like a perfect example, if you especially if you get a little bit more advanced in your SEO and your marketing, having some PR built into your marketing approach can have a huge effect as compared to just your standalone SEO package, because PR now gives you opportunities, let's say, to get published in Law 360, right? Getting published in one of these third-party syndication, I guess, websites, right, where they have articles and things like that, and a backlink to your website from there has a much bigger effect than just having a link in a directory, right? So everything comes down to kind of having a more well-rounded marketing approach, and that's one of the things that when I'm ever consulting a client, it's like, everybody's always focused, especially in the agency world, on a la carte services. Okay, and that's what I like to say, like, is wrong with the current marketing landscape, is everybody's trying to sell a la carte this. Oh, what do you want? Oh, I want SEO. Oh, I want Google ads. I just want this or that. And what they don't understand is an effective marketing campaign is a combination of everything.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. Like, SEO without PR is okay, but SEO with PR, oh my gosh, you're soaring. Right? That's a perfect example. Those two are just very symbiotic. Same thing with SEO and social media. You need social signals, right? So if you're doing SEO, but you're not on social media, or at least maintaining a basic presence, that's also detrimental to you, right? So there's a lot of different things that, you have to really think about when it gets to marketing. And I don't want to go too deep into that, because that's perfect for future episodes.
Right, yeah.
But, at the end of the day, like, I'll tell you this. So, like, I want to give everybody some tips on, like, before you even start marketing. Like, these are the things you need to know and do before you get into starting to build your own campaigns and lead generation. Okay, so number one, know what we call in marketing your buyer avatar, right? Or your target demographic. If you don't know who you're targeting, who you're trying to go after, where they're at, and all those details, right? Like, where can you find them? Where can you communicate with them? If you don't know that, you're already at a disadvantage, and you're going to be wasting money. That's number one. Knowing where they are physically and digitally, obviously, right? Because sometimes you can find them physically, sometimes you can find them digitally. Okay. Number two, understand what you're really selling, and that sounds silly, right? Because, oh, of course, I know what I'm selling. I'm selling, legal service. That's not what you're selling. You're not selling legal services. You are selling your ability to solve problems for clients. Okay. And until you understand that you are a problem solver for these people, and understand what problems you're solving, and market based on the problems that you're solving and not the service, you're always going to be at a disadvantage as well. Okay. The next step, understanding your B2B and B2C, which we kind of went over today. So understanding, do you have abilities to get into the B2B marketing side? And what are those opportunities? And what are my opportunities in the B2C side? Okay. So knowing basically that just comes down to, like, knowing that demographic, where are those people at? But also now on the business partner side, knowing, who are my potential referral partners? Are there other industries or other people that might have contact with my clients that might be beneficial or symbiotic for us? Perfect example is that journey with an immigration attorney. You have an E2 visa case that needs to get a business plan as part of the process, right? So naturally, you all are basically referring to Journey because you trust us and you know that we do well, right? And then because of Journey Digital, I got to do a shameless plug. Maybe that person also needs a website and a logo, right? So you can also refer them to us, so we can do that for you, of course. But
the win-win.
It's a win-win because your clients are getting something that they need, and you're also making sure that your chances of your case being successful are maximized, so you can give them better results as well. So look for those opportunities in your marketing as well, of who you can target and work with that's going to, give value to your clients. Next thing that I would tell you, understand farming versus hunting. Okay. In marketing, you have farming tactics and you have hunting tactics. Hunting would be going out and trying to get the person direct. So it's like, going out and trying to, go kill a deer, right? So you can bring it home and eat. But, farming takes more time, right? Maybe you can go out and find a deer. Maybe you won't, though. So you might have a good trip, you might have a bad trip. But farming, it's the same thing. It's a little bit longer build up, right? So it's more of that referral marketing. Those business to business relationships probably be the farming approach, right? And then starting to build that up where you're going to be able to feed yourself more consistently, right? And it could be lead generation as well, right? It just depends on how you want to approach. But farming versus hunting is important in understanding that, and then figuring out what your marketing tactics are actually doing. Are they hunting or are they farming? okay, and having a combination of the two, because it is good to have both. Okay, there's two more points. Number one, the first of the last points would be set goals and expectations. Right, don't go into any marketing campaigns without goals and expectations of what you're about to get. And let's just be like very realistic with your expectations and goals. Right, aim for the stars, be happy to land on the moon. Okay, so you have to be able to know what you're trying to do and what you're willing to settle for. And then the final piece is going to be have a pre-qualification and a sales process, because it doesn't matter what kind of marketing you're doing, or even if you're hiring an agency, if you have, pardon my French, a crappy sales process or pre-qualification process, you're not going to be closing anything. The phones could be ringing, but if you don't have the tactics and the systems in place to actually close that business, you're just leaving money on the table and you're wasting money. Okay, so this is all these different things that you should be doing before you even consider doing marketing, right? Or before starting to do anything. Then once you get into marketing, then it's deciding what medias you want to be in, where your client's going to be actually at, so you can target them. And that's where I like to tell people, don't only focus on digital marketing, focus on a combination of online and offline. Don't be afraid to go to events, go to trade shows, travel, go meet other business professionals in other countries, whatever you have to do. Shake some hands. But do a combination of things. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Do a combination of marketing tactics, right? And start with what is affordable and build up, right? What's affordable is usually sweat equity at the beginning, right? As you start getting some return on your sweat equity, that's when you start delegating and investing, right? Those processes, and then you start building it up, doing more and more and more. And that's how, the most successful agencies expand and scale, because they know how to delegate and they know how to invest. So, those would be my main tool, like my main tips for getting started as solo practitioners, because I can go in, and we should go still a little bit into more SEO about PPC and all these different medias. But at the same time, unless you have a purpose behind those, they're all just what I like to call marketing buzzwords. They have no value to you unless you know what you're doing or why you're doing them. Right.
And it's not an uncommon thing. I mean, it's for any brand, like any company. Yeah. Even, I mean, if you're an immigration professional, you're looking at people trying to immigrate, do business, you can see those things. I mean, I've seen in many companies that they start thinking of all of these things later, and that's why they've never made it, because this is the foundation of what they need to do. And as a person, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's everything always comes down to foundational principles. Until you have those things down and you understand what you're doing, the rest of it is kind of, there's no reason to build a house on a weak foundation, right?
Building a house in sand.
Yeah, exactly. Bad foundation is not going to, help you grow. So it all comes down to just getting things going in a position where, it's going to be scalable, it's going to make sense for you, right? And this is one of the other things that I'll tell you, in any business. Okay, when it comes to looking at marketing and hiring either agencies or hiring people to do marketing for you, just stay away from what I like to call as marketing buzzwords. Just because the guy down the street is doing SEO or PPC doesn't mean that it's viable for you or a good fit for you, right? You have to do what makes sense and do what you want, what you need to do with purpose. Okay. So that's why when you have agencies giving you proposals or people telling you what to do with your marketing, listen, you can have two immigration firms side by side, and they're both doing the exact same marketing plan. One's going to be successful, one might not, right? And because it could be down to the type of people that are working there, or the type of clients that you're trying to target might be a little bit different, right? So, perfect example, two immigration firms, you would think marketing should be the same. But one specializes in business immigration, and another one specializes in family immigration, right? Two different markets that they're targeting. They can have the same type of marketing campaigns, but one will be more successful than another. Perfect example in that case, maybe the one that's doing the family practice is going to be a little bit more successful with a B2C approach. But let's say if that same person in the let's say in the business immigration sector tried to do that, might not be as successful, because when it comes to working with people with a little bit more wealth, they don't just give their business freely to everybody, right? It's not just an ad and they're going to start working with you. They're typically working through referrals and people that they trust, because everybody's wanting to get money from them usually, right? So in that case, B2B might be a better approach for you, right? So everything has a reason when you're doing marketing. And, like I said, if you don't know the goals and why you're doing something, don't bother. It doesn't make sense, because you're going to be wasting your time and money and efforts. So always break it down to what needs to be done, why. Knowing the why is super important. That who, what, where, when, why, right?
And I'm talking about the where, right?
The where.
One of the questions actually it just caught my attention because it's related to what we're going to talk right now about social media. Digital marketing is usually associated with, all right, well, I need to have my social presence in every channel. And actually, one of the questions was about that. It's like, well, do I really need to be everywhere? Do I need to open a channel and handle in every single social media, because they keep coming, right? There's always something new around.
Okay.
How do you pick and choose, right?
All right. So this is where, again, it comes down to having the why, right? Every time, right? Like, and your purpose for doing something. Now, should everybody have social media profiles and a basic presence? Yes, I would say yes. And that's just because it's expected. And it's also, let's say, especially if you're trying to be, somebody's Googling you or trying to find you, having more of these profiles and everything else popping up makes you more credible. Now, at the end of the day, would, let's say, social media always be your lead generation source? Maybe not. So maybe you just don't invest as much resources into it, right? Everything is dependent on what you're trying to do. Now, perfect example, somebody that is deep into thought leadership, deep into building themselves as a professional and credibility for themselves, not just a firm, but let's say them. Perfect example, me and Mark is trying to do this webinar, right? We're doing a form of social proofing, and we're also doing a form of social media, right? We're getting out, we're talking, we're trying to, share thought leadership, right? If you're doing that type of thing, of course, you need to be on social media, because that's where people are going to be engaging with your content. That's where they're going to see your content. But let's say if you have no intent on doing something like that, then, have a basic presence, post a little bit here and there just for the right signals to go back to Google. But then, don't overinvest into it if you know that's not an intricate part of your marketing strategy, right? But do I say be on there? Yes. Claim them? Yes, because the other thing that can happen is, what if someone else claims your profile and they start doing bad things? Right? Posting spam and things that you would never post yourself, right? That comes down to also a form of what we call in marketing, online digital reputation management, right? You have to be able to manage your reputation online as well, whether you like it or not. Does that make sense? Whether you're digitally advanced or not either. So just because you think, oh, I'm a dinosaur, I don't know anything about online, it's not important to me, you're wrong. What if you got thousands of bad reviews online about you? You just don't know about it.
You didn't even know.
Didn't Google yourself, right? So, it comes down to saying, like, okay, do you have to be everywhere? I would say yes. Does it have to be difficult, or do you have to overinvest into everything? I would say no. So, yeah. But be there. Have that presence.
Yeah, especially the claiming part. I was working with a company that they asked me, like, so why are you creating a Facebook profile? It's like, because someone else is going to take it.
Yeah.
If someone else take it, then how you claim it back? That's almost impossible. Because believe me, Facebook don't care. They just don't listen to any of the issues. So having these claims on, like, look, this is me, and I spend the time over there. So if you want to listen to what I have to say, it's a great way. Now, everybody talks in social media. It's all about the followers, right? Oh, I have 1 million followers, or I don't know, I got 25,000 likes on my last photo that I posted. What are the real metrics that practitioners should be looking at? What are the real metrics that they're relevant? Because when you join, it's all about, oh, a lot of people follow me, so I might be doing something right. But
I'll tell you 100%. It's not about okay, as a business, usually it's not about the followers. It's not about, the amount of engagement always, because in most businesses, it's not about organic reach. Okay, because especially with all the social profile platforms now, they're very pay to play. Okay, and the only time that those types of metrics really apply is if you're trying to go deep into organic social media marketing, or you're an influencer. Because an influencer really does rely on those types of metrics to be able to get advertising deals, to get sponsors, things like that, and to get paid out by these platforms. but you're not getting paid by the platform. If you're not an influencer, the only things that you really care about, in my opinion, is this. Do you have a presence? Is it clean? Does it match your brand? Right? Are you at least maintaining some basic posting so you look like you're still in business? Okay. And then the last piece is, if you are going to use, most of the time as a business, social media to build business, you're usually doing it through ads and advertisements. And that has nothing to do with likes and followers, because you can have 0 followers and create a beautiful, engaging digital ad to generate business for your business, to generate leads for your business. And the number of followers has 0 to do with it, because it doesn't matter how many followers you have. When you choose your targeting, your demographics for your ads, that's all that matters. Like just having the right who to target and the right message to target them with, right? So at the end of the day, those metrics, unless they're relevant to you, don't worry about them. It's just more noise to have to think about in the marketing world, and you already have enough things to think about. And unless you're an influencer, like I mentioned, it doesn't matter.
Another tool that people consider when starting in this, right, is email marketing. Yeah. So email marketing is still, even though you go to LinkedIn and everybody is trying to kill email marketing is always dead, but it's a huge tool. It still works incredibly fine. But obviously if it's done well, right?
Yeah. So I'll give you my take on email.
Yes.
So first off, every media has its purpose and is a tool. Okay. So social media, email marketing, SEO, PPC, even networking, they're all different marketing tools. Now, email marketing back in the day, it was a lot of that being done before there was more heavier, better alternatives for digital marketing and targeting, right? So it used to be a really good lead generation source back in the day. And then everybody started getting, what would be the right word? Desensitized to their emails, and they know spam filters and this and that, and they understand how to drown out the noise, right? So I would tell you, unless you have a really, really good strategy, you're very good at email marketing, cold emails are usually not going to be the first thing you're doing as a solo practitioner. And I know email is one of those things that's iffy, especially for bar regulations and advertisement rules. You got to be kind of careful with that. So usually email marketing is not, for that approach at least, not a good viable thing for attorneys. But like I said, everything comes down to how you use the tool as well. So email marketing can be very, very powerful as a nurture tool, follow-up tool, right? And those are the two things that I would say most people are neglecting to use email marketing for. Perfect example. Most of everybody that's probably on this webinar right now probably came and registered through an email that was sent out by our marketing team, right? Most of them, because you're part of our database of partners and in our network. That is a tool that we're able to communicate with you through, right? To be able to get you to join, let's say, our webinars. It's the same thing. You can use the tool the same way. Or another way that you can use email is as a nurture tool for staying in touch and in front of your partners or in front of your clients. Perfect example, let's say some cases take time, right? Or some people are not always in their buyer's journey ready to close right then and there, right? But they've entered your pipeline, they've entered your sales situation, right? And one of the things that I think that people do, or like a don't, or I guess like an issue that people mostly do in their sales pipeline, is they cater to the maybe 1 to 3% of the people that come into their sales pipeline that actually close usually, and they neglect everybody else that's on a different part of the buyer journey, right? Because most of the time there's only a handful of people that are ready to transact when they're coming to you. And then the rest of them, if you neglect them, forget them, never follow up with them, never communicate with them again, you have 0% chance of retaining that business later on. And one of the things that people do oftentimes is they'll do lead generation, they'll do whatever they can to drum up this pipeline of people, but then they neglect 90% of them, right? And one of the things that you can use email marketing for is to nurture these people. Have a newsletter, keep them up to date with the current news and what's going on in immigration, for example, right? Perfect example, we've got a client in the EB5 space, right? It's a non-attorney, but they do consulting for EB5 for doctors and dentists, right? And they have a bulletin that comes out that talks to specifically to their demographic, which is Indian nationals that are on H-1B in the United States. That, Indian nationals don't have a huge pathway for, let's say, for getting a green card. They have like EB2, and then let's say EB5 really is the two viable ones, right? But EB2 is really long, so they want a green card faster. So they try to work with this company because they help them get this EB5 visa. Now, in that case, right, they're going to nurture those people because, number one, who has 800,000 out the gate to spend, right, on an EB5 visa? Not everybody, but some people have the ability to save up for it, especially a doctor or a dentist. So what they know is, okay, our buyer's journey is longer, so let's make sure we nurture our leads, keep them in our pipeline, and be top of mind. So they send email newsletters, updates whenever there's relevant news right then and there. They'll send articles on how to save for their EB5, how to plan, all kinds of content like that. By providing value, they're staying top of mind, and people are coming back to them 1-2 years later and transacting finally, right? So that's a key example of, using a tool like email marketing to make sure that you're retaining business and staying top of mind. I'm sure there's other examples, but I don't know how much time.
No, but that's good. I think the key word there is it was nurture, right? You don't just go ahead and sell on one email. And a lot of people have the wrong expectations, which is something you mentioned before. Like, you need to have the right expectation of of each one of your move. I want to sort of make a little pause into my questionnaire, because I want to ask you something actually from my side.
Okay.
So email marketing, content, social media, you have to create something, you have to say something, you have to drop a message. Now everybody's using AI for everything. I literally work with a company that created 1,000 in a month, 1,000 articles with AI, and they feel they're doing great. Now, I don't think that's the right thing to do, but what do you think of AI as a tool to help? Does it really work, or we're not there yet?
The key word that you said there is tool. Okay. So do we use AI in marketing? Heck yeah. Listen, if you're not using AI, you're gonna fall behind. Now, I wouldn't be able to tell you perfectly in the legal world, like how it attains to contracts and everything else, or immigration, right? But I can tell you, let's say in marketing, and this is one of the things that is challenging maybe for some agencies, but is perfect for solo practitioners. Make use of AI. Perfect example. Can you do your own SEO? Partly. You can write articles using AI, but the only thing I would tell you, that it's a tool and it's not perfect. So just like anything else, you need to proofread it. You need to make sure that it's authentic and real. So, and one of the biggest problems that does come from AI is there's a lot of noise out there. You just mentioned a client or a company that does thousands of articles using AI. Now, I don't know how well that they go and review those articles or anything else, because if they're not, there's maybe a lot of disinformation that they're spreading. Or maybe it's just low quality articles, because until you know how to use AI, just like any other tool, unless you know how to use it the right way, you're not going to get the same results. So I could use AI and you can use AI for the same task. And let's say if I'm just a little bit better in what's called prompt engineering and teaching my AI what I'm looking for, I can probably do it way better than you could, maybe faster and higher quality than you could with your limited knowledge, right? So just like any other tool, you get proficient in it, understand it, learn it, and it can be useful. Articles is a perfect example. Can you have an AI write an article? Yes. Check it, review it, make it your own. That's what I always tell people. So like even in our business, like we do a lot of websites for all of Joorney's clients. Can we use AI for writing some of the content? Of course. But we always have our own in-house writer that's going to rewrite everything and proofread it properly. Does that make sense? Like, you can't just leave it to the machines to just take over. But there's a lot of things you can do. You can ask it to help you with marketing strategy. You can ask it to help you with articles. You can ask it to come up with witty ideas or add captions if you want to try to run your own ads. There's a lot that it can do. There's a lot of capabilities. And now even a lot of them have the abilities to do videos and images. Perfect example, the other day, I literally created an entire video
Wow.
using an AI. And I would say it was pretty decent. It met certain levels of my expectations, considering this is coming from a machine, right? But it's out there, and just like any other thing in technology, if you don't keep up with it and you get behind, your competitors that do use these tools, they'll get an advantage on you. So, in marketing, we have to adapt to it. If we don't, our agencies are going to go down the drain, and we're going to lose out business to others that do,
Yep.
keep up.
I mean, you see a lot of content writers who's like, no, AI is awful. We're never going to use it. But you see a lot of content writers using it already and doing great
Oh gosh,
because
yeah.
they're using it right. It's all about learning how to use it.
Well, it's amazing. So I can tell you it's really good for it. And this is some of the things that we use it for. We use it for generating ideas. Okay, so idea generation for article titles that are topical ideas for FAQs, things like that. We also use it for outlines on articles. So let's say you don't know how to structure your article very well, but you can ask it just to give you use the topic name and then say, hey, can you give me a nice structured outline for this? So then you can go back and write it yourself. And then there's a little bit more structure to your article, and you know what you should be writing. So there's a lot of ways you can use AI without making it do all the work and relying on it 100%, right? But it comes down to the user and figuring out where they can use it in their creative process.
Now, to start wrapping up my side of the questions, right? I'm just going to do a 180 and go to the human side of the brand, right? The personal brand.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people think, and I feel too, that comparing a brand with a logo as a company, right? Now is more powerful to have people that belongs to that brand talking about the brand, or yourself becoming a thought leader, like you talked before.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your best tips onto? All right, you want to expand your personal brand, you want to create a personal brand, start here.
Providing value. Doesn't matter if it's your company or a personal brand. It's about providing value. If you can go out and teach or give somebody some sort of value or something more than they came to you with, that's the best way to build it, right? Building that credibility, and just seeking opportunities to be seen, right? So perfect example, don't be afraid to be a guest speaker on a webinar or on a podcast or on those types of things, because it lends credibility to you as a person, as a brand, and it helps create some content that's going to differentiate you. Anybody can use an AI to write a blog article, right, and post that on their website or on their social media, blah blah blah. But not everybody's willing to go on a podcast and record a video or provide tips or thought leadership and then post that, right? That's a lot more engaging than just any article that you can write. So, focus on higher level medias if you're going to be trying to really build a brand, and provide value. That's what I would tell you.
Yeah, I love video to be honest. I mean, it's one of my favorite ways to just put yourself out there as a person, because and it's easy. It's literally this: a phone right in front of you. Just talk about what you
Zoom,
know,
whatever you want. Yeah,
exactly. There's hundreds of tools that you can just use and like that. And the first step is just to go ahead and do it. Let's wrap up this idea with 3, 4, 5 maybe first steps that we want to give to our solo practitioners. All right, where do we start? Let's sort of recap on those things. How do we start this digital marketing journey?
Okay, number one, I would always encourage, let's say you're fresh, just started your own practice, invest into the B2B side, go to a BNI, because that's going to get you the fastest, biggest return on investment versus advertising. I can tell you, getting to advertising side of marketing there's an entry barrier, or there's an entry barrier to that, right? And that entry barrier is typically going to be a budget of some sort, right? And especially when it comes to attorney-based keywords or legal keywords for SEO or PPC or anything like that, there's usually a more of a higher premium to do the advertising. So I always encourage clients to start with the things that they can control and that they can build up to get more value. So referral marketing, B2B relationships, things like that. If you really do want to get into something, maybe thought leadership, speaking engagements, those are things that you usually can do on your own without spending a lot of money. You can start your own podcast for pennies on the dollar. I mean, you could do it. The issue is just getting it well known. But that comes down to relationship building. So focus on relationships at the beginning. Then don't be afraid to delegate, because until you start delegating things, whether it's your marketing processes, sales, right, doesn't matter. You're not going to ever be able to scale and grow out of what you physically can do yourself. Okay. And the third thing to think about when you're starting out is really think about your practice as a business and not as a law firm. Because although yes, you are a law firm, that's the type of business that you have, you are ultimately a business owner. So you have to think like a business owner. That means you need to make sure you understand your financials, make sure that you understand your costs, your marketing, your sales. Sales is probably the biggest thing that most attorneys neglect, right? They think, oh, I've got a front desk person to answer the phones. But guess what? That front desk person is not a salesperson unless you train them in the art of selling for you. You're losing so many opportunities. You have no idea how many times, because there's a lot of marketing tools out there where you can listen on calls and this and that, and you can have quality assurance, right, for what your company does, right? There's tools like CallRail, for example. You literally can record every conversation that comes in to your law firm, and you can go back and re-listen to it, especially when it comes to lead generation. So you can listen to the quality of the call, this and that. I've done this several times for clients where like they're relying not on a real salesperson or a real sales process. They're relying on a receptionist to answer and take appointments for them. But guess what? I listen to like 90% of those calls, and it can be as simple as thing as like, let's say the attorney speaks Spanish, but let's say the receptionist doesn't. And the appearance, just when someone calls in speaking in Spanish, hablas español. They put them on hold and try to transfer them. They don't even say anything. How many times have I heard that and seen that? A million different times. And this happens across all industries, but very specifically, it does happen in the legal industry because people don't think of their law firm as a business, so they don't treat their lead funnels or their pipelines as the traditional sales process. So really focus and figure out, how do I sell? How do I maximize on closing as many of those deals as I can? How can I nurture those deals? Because like we mentioned before, not everyone's going to be at the top of that funnel or the bottom of that funnel ready to transact. So how can you get back to them, right? How long is your average buyer's journey? Does your average person sign up within a week, a day, or does it take them 2 months to close? If it's 2 months, guess what? You better be nurturing, better be having a system follow up. If you don't have that, you're behind the curve. So
I love the fact that the main tip that I'm keeping in my head is always have a good receptionist.
Yeah,
it's gonna make a huge difference for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Dmitry, thank you so much for this sort of introduction. Because don't forget, everyone watching, this is a series. We're building this series to give you enough tools to help you stand out and help you work better, because you work with us. So your success is our success. So stick around. We have some questions now coming. I need to give you a little goodie right now. So Dmitry, don't go anywhere, because there's a lot of questions for you.
Okay.
So I need to give you your goodie, your CLE code. You're going to see it also in the chat. So the code is, sorry, my glasses are terrible, 240-2590N. 240-2590N. And it will be in the chat as well. So if you miss my beautiful pronunciation, you will find the code right there. There we go. Now let's jump into the questions, because there are a few.
Okay.
But I need to start with one that it was actually asked way even before we did this. So someone hear about it and send the question straight away.
Okay.
It goes to it's about social media. So Google ads, Facebook ads, Twitter, TikTok ads, worth it? How to develop at low cost?
Okay. Yeah, we sort of covered part of this. Should you be everywhere? Yes. How much you should invest into it really depends on your purpose and value that you expect to get out of it, right? The things that you're talking about, the ads and social media, a lot of those things, to have effective marketing there's a decent barrier to entry. And a lot of it comes down to either budget or creativity. Okay. So if you're not very creative, social media is difficult. If you don't have a huge budget, advertising can be difficult too. But also, if you're not creative, advertising can be very difficult as well, unless you're doing Google ads. Google ads is a little bit different, right? It's just more text-based. But let's say on social media, if you're doing an ad campaign on social media, you need to have top-notch creative to stand out, because you have to remember, you're now competing in people's feeds with other entertainment, right? Things that are actually going to entertain them, give them value, right? And Facebook and Instagram, they optimize for what people are more likely to, interact with, because they want the people, right, that they're showing your ads to on their feed to engage and to stay on those platforms longer, right? So what can you do in your content, your ads, to keep them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, doesn't matter, longer, so they can capture your attention and serve more ads to make more money? That's what those platforms are looking to do. So if you understand these principles, then yeah, you can, it makes sense and it's worth it. If you don't, or you don't have a purpose to be on there, again, zero value for you. Just have the presence, nothing more.
And I wanted to add to how to develop at low cost. I remember there's a connection of mine on LinkedIn that talks about the ugly ads. I forgot his name and I'm sorry about it. But he literally makes ads with the phone, like looking down, and he just talk about a brand, but it's so badly done that you want to finish watching it, right? So you really want to watch this whole idea of like a terrible filming. It's just an option. So you don't really need to, like you said, you need to be creative. You don't need to spend lots of money on an ad. You can just use a graphic. You can use a quick short video, a joke, whatever it calls the attention of people is great. I think that's a good point.
I can give you a perfect example. Back to that EB5 company. You wouldn't believe me when I tell you their ad budget for social ads that gets them about over 50 to 60 leads a month is about $200.
I need to put myself again. Like, wow, that's amazing.
I mean, is that going to be applicable to everybody? No, but they know their target demographic. They know the message to portray, right? Or in this case, I should say, I know the message to portray. It's one of my clients. And we're able to push and get them leads to that smaller budget, because what we're pushing to the clients is applicable. It resonates with them and they want it. So they reach out. Now, that's why I say there's a lot of like noise in advertisement. So it's about being creative and knowing who, what, where, when, why. Right? If you can do that, you can succeed in advertising. But yeah, doing things cheap. Can it be done cheap? Perfect example. I just told you, $200 for 50 something leads. And it's primarily through Instagram leads, Instagram advertising.
Wow.
Right? But is that applicable to every person? No. Maybe an attorney, like, listen, I've got another law firm that I work with, but they do divorce. It takes an average of $90 to get one phone call. Now, granted, we started with them from a different agency when we took them over. They were paying over $230 a call. We got them down to 90, but 90 is still quite a bit. And that's why I said there can be an entry barrier to advertising, right?
Absolutely. So,
it's all about being creative and figuring out where you should be based on where you are in your business at the time.
It's testing. Let me move to the next question, because I'm sorry, and sorry everyone if I pronounce your name wrong. I apologize in advance. Isaul is asking, can you speak to the differences in multicultural perspectives in marketing? For example, different ethnic groups considering different factors when they evaluate their marketing content. So there's obviously
good question.
It goes also hand by hand with personal brands. So take it away.
Yeah. Okay. Well, number one, I'm going to preach this over and over, and you're going to probably get tired of me saying this. Who, what, where, when, why? Because it is the most applicable answer to almost any question in marketing. Because, perfect example, multicultural perspectives in marketing. Like, you're right. Advertising or marketing to people from different countries, different geographic locations, even different cultures in general, right? Maybe even different languages, right? It completely can change your messaging, right? And it comes down to, do you know your target demographic? Do you know what they expect? Do you know what problems you're solving for them? Do you know what their expectations are of you, right? And if you can put together the right messaging to resonate to that, then you'll have more success. Now, again, as Marcos keeps bringing up, testing. Your message is never going to be perfect the first time around. And that's why in marketing we have what's called A/B testing. We test different messages. We test different creatives, right? We even can test different landing page styles, or what it looks like, the color schemes, everything. Like everything in marketing is testable, right? And it keeps coming down to like, are you willing to keep failing until you succeed? Does that make sense? And that's probably another thing that I would say is a huge, I guess, missed opportunity for a lot of people that are starting out in advertising. They'll try something. They'll try one agency for SEO or PPC or ads or social media. They'll try it and they'll fail that first time. And they just get this negative connotation with advertising or marketing in general, and then they just never try it again. And the issue was not that you failed, is that you didn't try again. Right? So everything keeps going down to being persistent, trying, failing. Because when you fail, all you do is just learn one more thing that doesn't work. That's it.
Exactly.
Right? And you only truly fail when you stop trying. So keep going, keep trying messages, keep trying different target demographics until you pinpoint who really works for you or what really works for you. Okay?
I think on the same tone, it's probably going to be a slightly similar answer. But Neva asked before about being everywhere, right? We already mentioned like, yeah, it's good, but in different ways and different options. Now, she also is asking about posting consistently. What does consistently mean? How often do you need to post?
Okay, so I can tell you this is a very kind of almost loaded question because it depends on where you're posting. It depends on what you're posting. Like perfect example, let's say in the world of social media, sometimes less is more. Okay, believe it or not, because like let's say if you're trying to go, the traditional organic route, right? Or organically building your followers and this and that. You can literally get penalized by the algorithm for posting a lot of crappy content. So what do I mean by that? If you keep posting content that people are not engaging with, the algorithm is going to penalize you. So sometimes volume is not the key. So that's why when it's kind of funny when I have clients come to me for like social media and they ask me for for packages or things like that, and they're always like, "Well, how many posts a week do I get?" I go, "Why does that matter to you? You think me posting more is going to get you better results?" Because that's not true at all. You can have one piece of content that goes viral, that is a higher caliber, that you spend much more time on, that'll give you more value than a whole year worth of posting crappy content. So at the end of the day, the question is like, should you, it's not, should you not be consistent? Yes, you should be consistent, right? The volume or quantities of things, that's where you have to kind of gauge what makes sense for your business and what your goals are. But consistency in marketing is key. So should you continue doing things? Perfect example, you start a podcast. If you stop after one episode, why'd you even do the first one?
Exactly. What a waste.
And you might need to do it for a year, 2 years, 3 years before you get picked up and you actually have true success. But it's that consistency, that persistence that will drive your success at the end of the day, right? Because people see that you don't give up. They see that you have something to say, and that will catch up to you eventually. But social media and posting, it's a fine edge. It's a double-edged sword there, because like I said, it can hurt you, but it can also be beneficial in some cases. If you have a lot of good content, great, post it. But if you have nothing better to say than what anybody else can already,
no need.
Don't bother.
You can stay quiet sometimes too. Like, because after all, for example, I used to post in the beginning 3 times a day on LinkedIn. But I was posting random stuff, which eventually became my personal brand. And now I'm like the fun guy on LinkedIn that knows a little bit of marketing. But it can play against you, like you said. Like if you're posting stuff that it doesn't give any value and nobody's engaging, all the channels are going to put you aside and they're going to hide your content. Yep. On the website subjects, Neva is also asking about how important is it to drag traffic to your website?
It depends. It depends on your goals. And it depends on what your website does for you, right? Every tool, depending on how you configure it, especially a website, websites can have different purposes. You can have websites or funnels for lead generation. You can have it for social proofing. You can have it for education and for saving you time when it comes to answering questions that you don't want to waste time during like a sales consultation, let's say. There's a lot of different purposes. Driving traffic to your website, if that is a goal of yours, then do it, right? And then what I would tell you at that point is have a purpose for that traffic. Like you need to know what they're going to be doing on your site and how you want them to engage with you and why. And then driving traffic alone doesn't do you any good unless you're able to convert it into something and turn it into something. So, everything comes down to that planning and knowing what you're trying to do. So I would say traffic is good. Is all traffic good though? No. Because you can have a perfect example, traffic through ads. Let's say you're doing PPC ads and you let your ads go wild and you're starting to get people finding you from, let's say you're in South Florida and people are all of a sudden finding you in Georgia because you're not doing a good job with your targeting. Now that traffic to your website from Georgia doesn't do you any good. And in fact, it's hurting you because it's wasting your PPC budget. So, everything comes down to kind of being aware of your situation and knowing what you want to do. And this is where, honestly, I would tell everybody, like going back to that delegation, like find somebody that you can trust that knows what they're doing, that they're talking about, and like rely on people that know more than you do on different topics. Don't be afraid to spend money. Don't just do it blindly, right? But, the most successful people have consultants, they have mentors, people that help them with whatever they need. They get involved in groups that help them with, it could be marketing, it could be sales, it could be just understanding their topic matter of what they do. Like, let's say, let's say in the legal world, you guys will go to get together, with the bar associations and discuss topics and this for a specific, case point, right? It's the same thing with marketing. Don't just rely on only what you know and what you can research. Get somebody that can help you. Don't be afraid to ask for help and get it. You're not expected to know everything.
Absolutely. And following up, sort of, I guess it's sort of in the same area of the traffic and website. Now, you create a website. Is WordPress good for a website for a big firm?
Okay. I love these questions. Again, it's like they're loaded because it's like it depends. What's your goal? So I can tell you this personally, because we build a lot of websites. Okay, if you're going to be doing something like SEO, 100% you should be on WordPress because it's probably the most friendly platform for SEO for your website. Trying to do SEO to Wix or Squarespace or any of these drag and drop builders. It doesn't matter what those platforms try to tell you about how they're SEO friendly, this and that. It's not the same. Now, if you're not doing SEO, if you're not going to invest a lot into digital marketing, where you really need to have a website that has more flexibility and the ability to, be altered and changed, right, and add functionality and things like that, then there's nothing wrong with being on a Wix. There's nothing wrong with being on Squarespace. In fact, I've got my own website builder that I even sell as well. We use an open source platform. We created it and it functions like a Wix. But the difference is we can export to WordPress if we ever wanted to, right? But the key difference here is those platforms, right, come down to maintenance, right? So if you have WordPress, you have to understand that you need to maintain your website on WordPress because you can get hacked, you can get malware, all kinds of different problems going on. It can go down. Or plugins stop working, things like that. So if you don't have a budget for maintaining the site or the knowledge on how to do it yourself, WordPress is sometimes difficult to deal with and it creates problems for you and it creates additional costs. So if you're not really using that website to generate business, right? If you're not using your website as an asset and it's acting more as a liability, then maybe it doesn't make sense to be on a WordPress. Maybe it makes more sense to be on Wix and just pay that $20 a month, but not worry about if my website breaks down and I got to spend $500-$600 to get it back online. Maybe the trade-off is there. right? So everything comes down to your situation, right? And that's whenever we're consulting on any client for what kind of website do they need, we say, okay, well, here's your options. If you are choosing WordPress, these are the things you have to expect, and that's it, right? So it's being transparent.
This is probably going to come from when we make another episode, especially about the funnel. But someone asked about which CRM should be the best one for growing a company. Like, how do you start? HubSpot, Soho. Does the CRM tool really matters?
I mean, Journey and my own agency, we use HubSpot. Now HubSpot has a little bit of a barrier to entry. It's a little bit pricier. Can I tell you, is it worth every penny that I pay for it? Oh yeah. but that's because I'm techie. I love marketing automation. I love data and analytics, right? So like, if these things are important to you, then you want a platform or a tool that gives you that. However, are there plenty of CRMs and systems out there, especially in the legal world, that would be just perfectly fine for a law firm? Yes. I've heard of a whole bunch of them. Clio, MyCase. There's a whole bunch of different ones, but everything comes down to what your goal is, right? Because some of these more niche CRMs, especially in the legal world, they provide things that like HubSpot can't, which is things like let's say contract libraries or document libraries, so you can have your forms to make it easier to pre-fill them using your CRM, right? So there's a lot of things that you could use from that, but the most common ones that I usually heard was like Clio. So I think that was the one that a lot of clients that I've worked with had usually used, and I've heard good things about it, but I also hear mixed things. But everything comes down to, sometimes it's just your user error, honestly. So even when you're angry with something, it's because maybe you just don't know how to use it.
Just give it another chance, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Those are the questions that we have. So once again, Dmitriy, thank you so much for being here today.
Of course.
And for answering all of these questions and giving the beginning and basically the foundation for you guys at home to start this adventure of digital marketing. Don't forget that this whole webinar is going to be available for you on YouTube as well. Don't forget that this is just the beginning of a series of webinars focused on you, on helping you to stand out, helping you to do your marketing better and start this adventure of the digital marketing. So I just want to thank you all for coming today. Thank you for your questions. Don't forget to go to the polls and let us know, what do you want to see next? What areas do you want to learn more? And Dmitriy, once again, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone at home. This is another one of your favorite webinars from Journey, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.